the sun is no longer rising from the west. Allah tells us in the Quran that the sun rises from the east. And our father Abraham challenged the king who would not submit to the truth. Why don't you cause it to rise from the west? Yes, because the sunrise ordained by Allah is from the east. And the sunrise of those who are challenging the order created by Allah would be a sunrise from the west. And this is what our Prophet, Allah's blessings be upon him, prophesied. And remember that in these prophecies there are those which are to be understood literally, like that the Son of Mary will return. This is literal, that he will come back in flesh and blood. But there are other prophecies which have to be interpreted, ta'wil. And this is why Allah sent Surah Al-Kahf of the Quran, and He gave us Khidr alayhi salam, who is the model of scholarship in the end time. Without him you cannot understand Akhir. And what is particularly important, vitally important about Khidr is that he interprets events. He gives ta'wil or interpretation. In Surah Al-Kahf, the three events: the boat, the boy, and the wall. Conventional scholarship, Darul Uloom scholarship could not understand, could not explain these three events. But the scholarship of Khidr alayhi salam was able to interpret ta'wil of the events. And so Surah Al-Kahf of the Quran is a wake-up call for scholarship. But when you make an interpretation of the sacred text, remember only Allah can confirm that you are correct. And so our Prophet, Allah's blessing be upon him, prophesied. One of the major signs of the last days that the sun would rise from the west. There are those who are persuaded that this must be understood literally. We are not one of them. And when the sun rises from the west, the door of Tawbah is now closed. My understanding does not apply to all of mankind. One people, the door of Tawbah will be closed for them. When the sun rises from the west, it would not be literal. It would be a false sunrise. And those who have eyes to see would recognize this is a false sunrise, which attempts to replace the true and the sacred sunrise. Those who control power in modern Western civilization, they represent the sun rising from the west. And that sun has been rising from the west for the last 300 years. A long period of 300 years is now coming to an end. And yes, Ukraine is the turning point. Russia has been blessed by Allah. Those who belong to the Putin this and Putin that, and Assad this and Assad that Jamaat, who got the beating of their lives in Syria, don't bother to even come to comment. Nobody listening to you. You're wasting your time. Go somewhere else. Leave us alone. Yes. That Allah has blessed Russia, and Allah is blessing Russia. Russia has the best leadership of any state in the world today. And what has happened so far, and what is still to occur, indicates that the Western world has now reached stalemate, and they are being checkmated. The sun is no longer rising from the west for them, and the long years of dominance over mankind is now coming to an end. We are witnessing the end of Western dominance over the world. This is also the second Qarn of Qarnayn. When Allah spoke in the Quran, وَيَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنْ ذِي الْقَرْنَيْنِ. And Qarn here is not a horn. Qarn is a people, a generation, an epoch, a time in history. And so Qarnayn will be something that occurs twice in history. So there are going to be two Qarns. The first Qarn was when Zulkarnain checkmated Gog and Magog behind a barrier. Barrier has to come down. It came down in the lifetime of the Prophet ﷺ. And Gog and Magog were released in the lifetime of the Prophet ﷺ. But there will be a second Qarn when Gog and Magog will be contained for a second time. And this conflict in Ukraine that is playing out, that is unfolding in the world today, from the perspective of Islamic eschatology, we are witnessing the unfolding of the second Qarn in Qarnayn. We know the end. We know what's going to happen. That at the end of the day, the Western world will be contained. They will be rendered harmless. They are incapable of continuing their destruction of mankind.